Alright, how's it going? What we're going to do today is we're going to paint some topology for use within the terrain editor. So I've already created my 4096 by 4096 canvas, and I already have my 2048 by 2048 MA playbounds box already set up. On the bottom layer, I'm going to go ahead and change my RGB value to 253. Okay, Alt A and delete everything. Oops, delete everything. And then paste in the new color. Control D. I'm going to create a new layer. I'm going to call this landmass A. So this is pretty much going to be our called coastal bounds or coastal elevation. Okay, so this RGB, or just put coastal, this RGB value is going to be 0. Okay, so I first need to come with a little design right there. Okay, zoom in on it. And so I'm going to bring those back, and I should be at 0 already. And now I'm going to get a brush, and I'm going to paint it. Brush tool, and I want it a solid brush. Soft. No. Okay, and 8 miles right there. That's 1 mile. So this little strip right there is 1 mile wide. Okay. So I want an area. Let's see here. 48. So just a kind of a larger brush, just to allow me to fill in more area. Okay, now we're gonna, here in a second, we're gonna start working zoomed in a lot more. Okay, so when you open that up in Terrain Editor, it's going to show the land just underneath the water level, because the water plane and the land plane are going to conflict with each other. Okay, sort of like if you 3D model and you have two faces that are touching each other, you're going to get a weird shade in there. It's going to do the same thing in the Terrain Editor. Okay, so now we're going to create another layer, and we're going to call this our max elevation, or max EV RGB. And so I want to use this nifty little chart right here. I showed it in a couple tutorials to get the highest altitude. So I'm going to go ahead and try something along the lines. Forgot to get a calculator. And let's try. Let's do 8,000 feet or 8,500 feet. Divide that by 256. It gives you 33. So we're going to use 33 as our cap. Okay, so we want to reset our gradients here. So there's 33. Okay, and then on the low side, we want it down to 0. And I'm setting this up right now, but it comes into play a little bit later. So I want to go ahead and bring that down to 8 to 1 mile, and see how that looks right there. Yeah. Okay, so now we're just going to kind of paint some, like a real quick ridge on here and kind of spur it off. Okay, so what we're going to do, in fact, I'm going to change this. Yeah, max elevation is fine. So now we're going to apply a layer style to this, okay? So go into layers, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to use a gradient overlay on this. Okay, and the type of overlay that we want will be, actually, it's not a gradient overlay, excuse me. It's been a minute. We're going to, yep, there it is. We're going to apply a stroke, and we're going to want to do a shape burst. Okay, so if I use linear and I change, say this color to right there, just so you can see it. Oh, actually, I'm in grayscale, so it doesn't matter. Okay, you can see it right here with the gradient on there. If I use linear, it just kind of, from top to bottom, it's good to go. Okay, so if you use a shape burst, it's actually going to follow uh, the shape of the pattern that we drew, or the lines that we drew in earlier. Okay, so we know this isn't right, so we need to flip our gradients. So I'm going to hit cancel, and I'm going to flip them. I'm going to go back in, go to stroke, and it's still not doing it. Dang it. Actually, yeah. Okay, there we go. So what that's going to do is that's going to blend it from the high, from the, what would I say, 33 down to 0. Okay, and that's going to blend it right into the ocean. There's different things you can try. Let me turn off, let me hit OK. Let me turn off the coastal. I don't know if you can see that or not. Okay, you see how right all the way around that? That's going to give us problems. Okay, so the way it's filling the pixels is it's filling like half pixels, kind of blending them into 0, and we don't want that, right? So we are going to clean that up here in a second. Let me turn this back on and adjust. I don't know what that does, whatever. Adjust our size of it. Okay, we're going to hit OK. So now what we're going to do is we're going to rasterize this layer so it's solid, it's not going anywhere. And then we're going to, excuse me, leave that one unselected. Now we're going to select everything in here, and we are going to modify it. We're going to contract it by 2. Nope, wrong way. Expand it by 2. And then hit delete. Okay, so that's going to give us, should have given us a little bit cleaner, yeah, per pixel right there, so we don't have to really worry about the bleed overs the peaks, when it's blending it to 0. Okay, so there's that, and I'm going to do the same thing on this coastal area. Select that. I'm going to modify, I'm going to expand by 2. And I'm going to hit delete. Okay, now that should have fixed it, but it's a good thing to go in and check it to make sure that it did. You see we should have some areas. Okay, that should work. Now we're just going to do the same thing, the typical export. Before we do that, we're going to open up the terrain editor. We're going to start it new. Come on, terrain editor. Okay, new. Go back. Oops. New folder. We'll call this, I think it's tutorial number 5. Tutorial number 5. Open that up and call it Tut 5. Open. And we're just going to do, do 64 miles. Okay. Now we're going to save as. Yeah. Come on, little feller. Here we go. Now we're going to exit that out. Now we're going to save this as a raw. There it is. Oh, I got so many folders going on. There we go. Yeah, we'll try that. And if it doesn't work with the Macintosh, we come back right back around and we'll open it up or save it out in IBM, which I think I'm gonna have to do. I think this gave me problems the last couple times. Yep. Yep, not a big deal. We can always fix that. Okay, so we'll go back into Photoshop. I'll save as. Yes, I want to replace it and go with IBM. Okay, there we go. Okay, and if you look, we get a better. Okay, so remember I told you about having faces on faces, for those that 3D model. This is what it looks like. This is what happens when you have two polygons sitting on top of each other. Okay, two faces. That's a vertex on either corner, surrounded by edge or connected by edges, equals a polygon. So the faces are sitting on top of each other. But if you come down here and get rid of that grid, if you come down here, you see the exact changes that we painted in. Okay, now it would be nothing to go in and kind of smooth these things out. You know what I mean? So like you do raise and go in maybe 20-foot increments, right? And then you can kind of just paint these bigger features in without having to start from scratch. And inside this type of environment, you'll be able to easily prototype um, everything that you need to get started in a fairly quick manner. And it kind of makes it look pretty neat in my opinion. But anyways, so that's this particular tutorial. So I'm going to recap it real quick. So open up Photoshop. You can do everything like you would during the other tutorials, the 4096 by 4096 canvas, the 2048 by 2048 bounding box for the MA play area. And then you're going to go ahead and then start with the background layer, the very bottom layer, right, being your C. And then you're going to want to create your lowest elevation, land elevation, which really isn't a land elevation. It's because it's zero, so it's those faces are butting on each other, so you're getting some undesired results. So you will have to go back in and pull those back up. But the good side of it is it gives you a good chunk that's not water, so you can actually sculpt on top of, not have to worry about pulling your water table depths and all that. Okay, so and then you go ahead and create a new layer, and you're going to want to paint with the max elevation that you want for that particular area, like I had done. And sorry, I think I thought I was using a different program. And then you're going to want to add a layer style. You're going to want to add a stroke. You're going to want to come down here in the fill type, leave it to gradient, go to shape burst, and you're going to want to make sure that it, well, that it blends down to the lowest elevation that you want. Okay. Now you can adjust that by going in here and then clicking on these bottom guys right here, and it says 0. You know what I mean? So you could do that. If you wanted to, you could put 1 in there and hit OK, and then it would blend it into 1. And then up here you can change the total, the highest elevation, you can actually change that too with the gradient if you're looking for more like a bowl, or a high range valley or something like that. Well, I hope this helps somebody. If it doesn't, go ahead and send me a message on the forums, or you can get a hold of me through the YouTube channel, and I'd be more than happy to sit down with you and do a one-on-one with you and a one-on-one video with you and get you spun up. All right. Thanks for watching.